Today, I want to show you how to configure eBGP multi-hop between two routers. In our previous video, I showed you how to configure the eBGP peer. The link to this video should be somewhere here in the corner. Before I start, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It will help me to grow it. So now let's begin. I have two routers. I have the connection between those two routers on the 192.168.0.0/24, and I have two loopbacks configured or pre-configured already. Loopback 0.1.1.1.1 on the router 1 and a loopback 0.2.2.2.2 on a router 2. What I would like to achieve today is to have eBGP peer between those two loopbacks. So let's begin. I will jump onto the router 1. First I do show IP in brief just to double check configuration here. So I go to the config mode. Router 1 will have AS number 65001. Router 2 will have 65002. So let's configure the BGP router. BGP 65001. I will set up a router ID as a best practice. 1.1.1.1, that's on the router 1. Now I'm going to set up the neighbor. Neighbor is 2.2.2.2, that's the loopback IP address, and the remote AS for the neighbor will be 65002. It's an eBGP peer, so different AS number. And next command for the neighbor will be activate. Let's go to the router 2. I will just drag it so it's in the right order. Show IP in brief. Yeah, IP addresses are there. So let's go to config mode. Router BGP 65002. Router, always forget the BGP before that. BGP router ID will be 2.2.2.2. Now, neighbor will be 1.1.1.1 with a remote AS, and that will be 65001. And that should be it. Sorry, forgot to activate. Now, and that should be it. So let's double check. Show IP BGP or summary, and neighbor is idle, is not up. So what's the reason? So the first reason is it is eBGP peer between loopback, so they are not directly connected interface, and an eBGP peer always set the TTL or time to live to 1. So if it's a more than one hop away, the peer will not establish. So let's fix that. There is a command for the eBGP to tell it that it's more than one hop away. TTL1 will only allow for the BGP peer to be maximum one hop away. Because the 2.2.2 is more than one hop away, the BGP peer will never establish. So we need to fix that. So in the router, I'll go back to neighbor, type 2.2.2.2, and the command for the multi-hop here, eBGP multi-hop, and because it's more than one, it's 2 hop away, I set the 2. Go back to the router 2 and do conft router BGP 65002. The neighbor was 1.1.1.1 and eBGP multi-hop 2. Now I have eBGP multi-hop. So do you think the router will establish the connectivity? I don't think so. There is another reason why they're establishing now. So let's try the basic L3 connectivity. Ping. So I'm on router 2, so ping.1.1.1, source loopback 0. As we can see, there is no basic L3 connectivity between those two loopbacks. So there are multiple ways how you can fix it. You can set up a static routing, you can set up the dynamic routing, for example, like OSPF. In our lab, we will set up the static route. So I'll go back to config mode and I'll do IP route 1.1.1.1 255.255.255.255. So, next hop is 192.168.0.1. That's a IP address of the router 1. And I'll do the same here. So exit the BGP config IP route 2.2.2.2. That's 255.255.255 with the next hop 192.168.0.2. So that should be it. Let's try the L3 connectivity. Ping, so loopback. So L3 connectivity is working. Let's try and check show IP BGP or summary. Still idle. So why is that? Let's check the configuration. Show run section router. Section router BGP. So we have a configuration. We set up the router ID. Remote AS, we set up it's a BGP multihop. We have the L3 connectivity. So why is not connected? Let's bring up the Wireshark. So that's a Wireshark which is currently capturing on this interface, and it will explain to us why we don't have a eBGP peer established. BGP using a port 179, TCP 179. And as we can see, there's lots of traffic coming from router, for example, router 2 going to the router 1. And if I stop that for a second. So the router 2 is trying to establish the BGP on a port 179, but is getting reset from the router. And the reason is because even we set up that we want to peer with the loopback, we haven't set up the source interface. That means that the BGP router is still trying to use its physical interface. That's the interface here, 192.168.0.1 or 2, and trying to peer with the neighbor loopback because that's what we configured in a BGP config. So the way to fix it, you also need to tell the BGP which source interface to use for that neighbor. So if I go back here, back to router 1, let's review the configuration. Do show run section router BGP. As we can see, neighbors 2.2.2, so 65001, and now do neighbor 2.2.2.2, update source, loopback 0. Let's jump here. Conf2 router BGP 65002 neighbor 1.1.1.1 update source loopback 0. So check the show IP BGP summary. You can see the peer is established. So if I go back and review the configuration for last time, show run section router BGP, we can see we have a router BGP configure with a router ID. We set up the remote AS for the neighbor. We set up that is a more than one hop away, so eBGP Multihop 2. And we also set up that the update source for that BGP peer should be a loopback 0. And we have exactly the same on the router 1. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.